Many people online have said of their hate of the Rings of Power, but I said in my previous video that I thought it's still early days, but it was still, yes, disappointing. And with episode 3, not much has been done to change that viewpoint so far, but it does now feel like they have put the foundations in place so they can finally pick up the pace a bit in the future episodes. And if that is to be the case, they probably should have put episode 1 to episode 3 out in that first day release instead of just 1 and 2, because now you're giving people an extra week to hate on the show when you could have just bundled them into 3 episodes as that starting point and then moved on with the rest of the season. But anyway, looking at this episode and our 4 storylines, only 3 of them actually got any development because Elrond's storyline had nothing at all.
Nothing at all!
Starting with the Harfoots this time around, and we learned from the speech from Lenny Henry's character that if any of them fall behind, they're left behind. And they went through some of the deaths of their friends and even laughed at the guy who got killed by bees, and it really shows that this community is survival of the fittest, and it's quite brutal in that way. The community do get acquainted with the mystery man, and he does actually speak for the first time. And thankfully for Nori's injured father, he tags along and helps carry the load.
Share the load,
Jumping over to Arondir now, and he's stuck slaving for some orcs. There actually was some quite enjoyable confrontation in this storyline between the workers and the orcs, and there were some deaths as well, but unfortunately we didn't get enough time with these other characters to make the deaths actually feel of any weight. And it's not about necessarily wanting to feel more for these characters, it's just that the show did linger quite a bit on their deaths, where it's like, you know, they've only been there 5 minutes, why does it matter? Arondir nearly escapes, but he gets dragged back down by the orcs. He then gets taken to meet the mysterious bad guy we can't clearly see, and it's just like the last 2 episodes actually, where we conclude with a new challenger approaching. And with that, we only have one more storyline to talk about, and that is Galadriel, who has now arrived in Numenor. First thing to say is that they have made Numenor look really beautiful, there's no doubt about that. But when it comes to Galadriel, I'm still struggling with that character, because I don't know if it's the actress Morphe Clark, or I don't know if it's just the direction they're giving her, because she just feels so cold all the time. And like, she's not really showing that emotion at all. I don't know, again, it could be her, it could be what she's been told about. She's going to unleash that maybe as the show goes on. As we saw with the horse scene, she does eventually smile, but it just feels so weird when we saw that actually, because we haven't seen really any of that at all. But why is her character moving on like that if that's the case? It just feels a little bit odd. We had quite a handful of characters being introduced here, so you got to take that into consideration when you look at this storyline being a little bit slow. We did see Halbrand show his not so sneaky side and get into a fight, and with that character, he's definitely one of the most intriguing ones in the show, and with his relationship with Galadriel, that'd be interesting to see how that does evolve over time. And one of the major revelations we got in this episode is that Sauron's sigil is actually a map of Mordor, or soon to be Mordor, so with that information, hopefully that now will kickstart this part of the story. In my last video for episode 1 and 2, I said that Elrond's storyline was definitely the one I enjoyed the most and seemed to be the one with most potential, but I think with episode 3 what's happened is that the other 3 storylines are now sort of caught up with it. At the moment, I have to say overall the show is a bit of a slog, but it is showing enough promise where I think it could get better week on week. Is it a boring show? Well, I think at times it can be quite boring and my mind just sort of wander off somewhere else when watching it, but I think, like I said, there is enough here where I am optimistic for the final 5 episodes. There's only 5 to go, which does also worry me a little bit because I think there's only 5, and you know, are they going to move at this pace gradually, or are they actually going to start really ramping it up? Let's see what happens. Because they have said they plan to do 5 seasons of this, so that worry does stem from them maybe padding it out. That's just a few of my thoughts on episode 3, but do you also think it's going to get better overall, or do you think it's worse than seeing Frodo taking a dump? Whatever it is, let me know down in the comments below, and on screen right now is our review for the Disney remake of Pinocchio.